Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. I got to confess, ladies and gentlemen, when I couldn't find my rundown, my printed copy of the rundown, I suspected my own production team of violating city code, which says you are not allowed to willfully annoy another person. But I found it in a different stack, so all is forgiven, and my staff is off. My team is off the hook, at least for the moment. Now, I want to shift gears and welcome to our decision maker line, Mike Donnelly. Mike is the Director of International Affairs for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Mike, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Brian, it's great to be with you.
Well, and it's great, Mike, because we have got something to celebrate today. We talked about this yesterday. The news broke right in the middle of our program yesterday, so we brought it fresh and kind of right off the grill that the Romeike family, this is a homeschool family, they sought asylum in the United States because in Germany, homeschooling is against the law, and they were threatened with the loss of the custody of their children and so forth. So they sought asylum in the United States. They were granted asylum here, and then the Obama administration revoked the grant of asylum, went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court refused to hear it, so it looked like that was the end of the trail. It looked like the Romeikes, a family of 8, were going to be sent back to Germany, but something happened. Talk to us about that, Mike.
Well, they're a family of 7, actually. They've had 2 children born here in the United States since they've been here since 2008. So it's 7 children, 2 parents, family of 9, actually. But yeah, yesterday, late in the morning, we received a call from the Department of Homeland Security informing us that the Romeikes' deferred action status was being granted on an indefinite basis, which is an unusual but not unheard of procedure for the Department of Homeland Security. They do this in some cases where you've got a family like this, a good family that, very law-abiding citizens here for good reasons. Apparently the Department of Homeland Security recognizes that asylum law doesn't cover all the situations that maybe are meritorious situations where people should be permitted to stay here. And in this case, they decided to go ahead and grant an indefinite deferred action to this family, and it is great news. It's the end of the story, and it's a good ending for this family. They're going to stay here in the United States at the discretion of the U.S. government.
I just want to tack something down here, talking here with Mike Connolly from the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. When the Department of Homeland Security grants somebody, here is the technical term, indefinite deferred action status, so the deportation finding had been made. They were going to be shipped out of the country, and what they have done is deferred action on that. That's what deferred action means. We're not going to act on that, and it is indefinite. Now, indefinite makes it seem like, well, it could last for a while, then it could get undone. But my understanding, and this is what I want you to confirm for us, Mike, that this is basically a synonym for permanent.
I wouldn't say that, actually. I wouldn't say that it is a synonym for permanent. It is indefinite because it's a decision made by the department, and the department can change its mind. We're going to have this current administration for another 2 years, and then after that, we'll have another administration, and that administration, will have different people, and they may change their mind. Anything can happen. In fact, we're hoping that Congress will actually change the law. I mean, they've been talking about immigration reform a lot, and we've actually proposed that they change the law to recognize that people who are not permitted to educate their children in accordance with their conscience, religious or philosophically, should be allowed to come here to the United States to be granted asylum. We think the Romeikes should have been granted asylum. We think the courts got it wrong, and we think Congress should step in to clarify that this is a reason why people should come here. It's not going to open the floodgates to tens of thousands of new people because, it's only for people who are being persecuted. That's what asylum law is designed to do. It's designed to protect people who are persecuted. And there's a lot of I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Mike, a lot of people are saying, well, and in fact, this was the finding of the Department of Homeland Security that, they're not going to be persecuted in Germany. This is not about persecution. Asylum is just for people who are being persecuted. That's not happening to them, so we can send them back. So tell us what the lay of the land is for homeschooling families in Germany.
Well, I've been reading some of the reaction to this, and it's interesting. I mean, most people are very happy about all this. There's some people who are critical, but there have been people who have been saying, asylum law in the U.S. is only meant to protect people who are in danger of life or limb. And that's not true. Our asylum law is designed to protect people in 5 categories. And two of those, one of them is based on their religion, if they're being persecuted on account of religion, and the other is if they're being persecuted on account of their membership in a particular social group. And of course, the courts apply all kinds of definitions to these things, and it makes it difficult to understand exactly who qualifies and who doesn't, which is part of the problem in this case, but that's inside legal baseball. We don't need to go there. The reality is this. If you are a parent in Germany and you want to homeschool your children, something that 2 million children enjoy here in the United States and most other countries in the world recognize, and even if they don't recognize it, they don't treat people the way Germany does. If you want to homeschool in Germany and you try to do it and they find you out, they're going to prosecute you criminally as if you're a criminal because you're not sending your kids to school. Now, truancy in America is a criminal prosecution as well, so that's not so crazy. But what's crazy is they actually sentence people to jail and send them to jail. The second thing that they do is before they send you to jail, they'll try to get you to change your ways by threatening you with tens of thousands of dollars worth of fines. In some cases, they've actually taken people's bank accounts and ruined them financially over this issue. If that's not enough, they're going to either and at the same time threaten to actually take your children away, and they've actually taken children away from their parents just because of homeschooling. And adding on top of that, now what they're doing is if they find you and they take your children, then they're not even going to let you leave the country if you say you're going to homeschool your kids. And that's what's happening right now to the Wunderlich family in Germany, and it is absolutely outrageous that this kind of thing is going on. And how could we possibly send the Romica family back to suffer that kind of treatment?
Yeah, so what you're saying, Mike, if you look at what's going on in Germany, then this business about them being vulnerable to persecution, it is not an idle threat. There are fines, there's jail time, loss of custody of children, so it's a long way from being an idle threat. And I'm just struck, Mike, by the fact that here this family came to America. They sought asylum here. I mean, we're one of 190 nations in the world. They sought asylum in the United States because they believed that this is a country where we respected religious freedom and we respected parental authority. And so what does the fact that the Obama administration actually until just yesterday fought to try to deport these people and prevent them from exercising their unalienable right to direct the upbringing of their children. What does that tell us about where we're at as a country right now on these very important issues?
Well, I think when you look at some of the cases, and this is certainly one you could point to where there is some concern, and I don't want to go too far down that path because we are appreciative that the Department of Homeland Security, which is part of the administration,
sure,
is letting them stay. So we don't want to rain on that parade too much here. But the reality is, when you look at other areas that where the federal government is intruding into parental decision making, and in the healthcare area, in the education area, with things like Common Core, it's not just this administration. It's a trend that has been going on for decades, and it's with the federal government taking on more power, overreaching, and so. You can look at this administration and say, well, they've accelerated it, and that may be true, and I personally think that it is. But it's a trend that's been going on in our country. And so we really need to be concerned about this overreach, this intrusion into areas like parental authority. And when you look at the case up in Massachusetts, the Pelletier case,
yes.
I don't know if you were following that.
Oh, yeah, very much so, very closely.
And another good result, the child has been returned apparently to the custody of the parents, and that's great. But these are not isolated cases. These kinds of things are happening. This case in New Jersey where this teenager was sued her parents. We got the right results. So we're getting some good results. But, these things are happening more frequently, and the results are not always correct. Well, so there is some pressure there, and I think we need to do something about it.
Well, and you look at what happened with that Pelletier case where the child, their daughter, was taken from the parents against their will. I think it's been about a full year where they had no custody of their child. They were very limited in any kind of contact they could have with her. It's like she was an inmate in a correctional facility, and they were restricted to that kind of access. And it took tremendous amount of public outcry and outrage to protect the right of the parents to be able to make medical decisions for their child. And this is kind of a similar thing, Mike, and I wonder maybe you could comment on the fact that we had a good outcome in this situation because so many American people cared about what was happening to the Romica family and made their voices heard. And at some point, the elected officials of the people, they have to start paying attention to what their own people are telling them.
Well, you'd like to think that they always do, but we know that's not always the case. But no, there's no question that the millions of people who have been paying attention to this case and our supporters who are homeschooling, and other people, just people who aren't even homeschooling, just Christians or people who are concerned, who are praying for this family, supporting this family. There's no doubt that that had a significant impact. The authorities knew that this was a big issue, and people were very concerned about it. In fact, Fox News told us that they had a record-breaking 1 million page views on this issue on their website, which has never happened before. This story struck a nerve with the American people, and people were absolutely aghast that our Supreme Court wasn't going to intervene and hear the case and make a ruling. And then 24 hours later, we got the right, at least as much as the administration could do, the Department of Homeland Security, of saying to the family, look, we're not going to make you go back to Germany because, well, we don't know what their reason was, but one can surmise when you look at what's going on in Germany that at least that had something to do with it.
Now, this does mean the fact that they're granted indefinite deferred action. Does that mean that they will not be able to pursue citizenship and be able to vote in this land? Is that part of the downside of this for them?
That's correct. It is not a permanent legal status. It's an indefinite deferred action status. That's what it is. It's a sort of a legal status. I would call it a legal status. And but it's not a path to citizenship. But the Romeikes are okay with that. They know where their citizenship ultimately is. That's what they told me when I spoke with them yesterday. And they said, we're just happy to be able to be here peacefully, following our conscience, following our religious faith, to educate our children according to God's ways. And that's what we always wanted. That's the only thing we ever wanted.
Mike, just the last 30 seconds, you've been in contact with the family, and you mentioned their reaction. And just tell us in 30 seconds, just summarize their reaction. They went from probably a pretty dark moment where it looks like they're going to be shipped out of the country to being told they can stay. Must have been pretty dramatic turnaround for them emotionally.
Yeah, well, they're going to be on TV this weekend, I think, but people can tune into that. But they told me they were grateful. They thanked God. They knew that they were in God's hands. That's where they wanted to be. They knew that was the best place to be. And they were just very thankful to everyone who supported them, prayed for them, and ultimately they gave glory to God for this great, great outcome.
Our guest has been Michael Donnelly, the Director of International Affairs with the Homeschool Legal Defense Association that went to bat for the Romeikes and successful in protecting their right to stay in America and their right to direct the education and upbringing of their children. Well, Michael, thank you for taking time to be with us. We rejoice with you and with the Romeike family. Great outcome. Thanks for taking time to be with us, and God bless you in the work of HSLDA.
And you, my friend. God bless you.
Michael Donnelly, HSLDA, back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.